Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show Network. I am joined by my two incredible good friends, Kyle and Mike. What's going on, guys?
Hey, joining you from the phone today. My computer's broke.
Oh,
Oh, boo. Hey, you gotta do what you
boo.
gotta do, man. You gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you
Medication.
gotta do what you gotta
Yeah.
poo. No, I'm just kidding.
But I see you have your pumpkin shirt on, Kyle. Well done, sir. Tomorrow's the big day, so you want to make sure you represent. So I got Fear Factory because scary stuff. JT, what did you do for Halloween? Oh, I
I
see.
haven't.
You brought your Ace Ventura hair there. Good job. Well done, sir. I
There we
like
go.
it.
My,
I
my
like
hair
it.
looks my hair looks
No, I
like Ace Ventura Pet Detective. There we go.
as a man of no hair, I hate you both, and I'll see you in the parking lot.
Yes. For those, you can flash Mike's address up on there really quick, and you can go hate on there.
Easy, easy,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
easy.
kidding.
All right.
Anyways,
I
I
have a lot
digress.
of I have a lot of haters. People hate me on this channel.
The Taylor Swift Midnight's discussion. Anyone? Anyways, just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, no, as the title of this podcast suggests, tonight we're going to do some discussions on Blink-182's One More Time, the most recent release by Blink-182 after they reformed and after they got back together and they did the reunion tour. They just put out their new album, Blink-182's One More Time. I want to let Kyle go first because for those of you who remember way back when in the world of the early days of our show, we actually did a career discography breakdown of their whole catalog. And Kyle, and he's a big fan of the band, and I did see them too back in May as well. But Kyle, what do you got for one more time, especially coming off of nine? You know what I mean? So
Mm. Yeah, coming off of nine, which is probably easily, I would say one of my least favorite by them. Uh, it just kind of felt directionless. Kind of felt like they were trying to get a more like mainstream, not mainstream, but I guess a younger audience, really trying to adapt to that like TikTok crowd. Didn't really work all around for me. I don't see myself revisiting that one all that much. Having said that, though, California, I am one of the people with the unpopular opinion that that was a fantastic record. Um, but it did lack the core trio that is the classic Blink 182 of Mark, Tom, and Travis. Not saying that Matt Skiba did a bad job or anything, because I think he was a great replacement. He was a great temporary replacement. So, with Tom coming back into the band here, coming back into the fold, it was kind of, well, what do we expect? Is it going to be like the first reunion where it felt disjointed? They didn't record anything in the same room as each other. They wrote the album and just recorded through computers from like states away, different locations and neighborhoods. You can tell it's very disjointed. It doesn't sound great. It sounds like Angels and Airwaves featuring Mark Hoppus. But I'm glad to say on this one we didn't get that. On this one, this is a very classic return to form for Blink in a way that is representative, I would say, of all of their different eras, which is a breath of fresh air, really, because I was kind of worried they were going to come back and do strictly songs that were going to be reminiscent of like the Untitled record, which, again, I have the unpopular opinion that's kind of a mid record. Outside of like the hits from that, I don't really revisit much of it. What I like from my Blink 182 is fun pop punk songs. The serious songs never really did much for me outside of like Adam's song "Stay Together for the Kids," or even the most recent "One More Time." Outside of those, I would just go to Blink for fun, upbeat pop punk music. You know, got to throw a couple like dick jokes in there. Love that. It's great. That's what I want. I want music that's going to make me feel like a nostalgic teenager again. And I would say about half this album does that very well for me. Coming off the first single, I guess being Edging about a year ago before the
yeah,
album came out, a lot of people weren't that into it. I love that song. It did exactly what it had to do. It showed them coming back as here we are, we're back. Here's a fun pop punk song. It was nothing serious. It was just here, look, we're back. It's the three of us again, and it did a great job at that. And then fast forward about a year or so, a little less than a year, to when One More Time came out as I guess what you would call the first real single of the album, in my opinion. seeing as Edging was a year ago. And wow, that really blew me away. That was not expected to be like the album announcement song, be a slow ballad. But I think it's exactly what the fans needed to hear, was just kind of like, hey, we know we've messed this up before. We're not messing it up again. You know, we worked out our stuff. Here we are, we're back. So JT, I don't know if you want to pull up that track list. So I'm going to be mostly discussing the standard track list here. I didn't get too much of a chance to listen to the digital exclusive tracks that they released this past weekend or so, whenever those came out. So I'll just stick to primarily the main track list here. Starting off with Anthem Part 3, something that I'm really glad that we got, really completes that trilogy, rounds it out. With that said, it's probably, again, unpopular opinion here, I know, from what I've seen in the fandom, probably my least favorite of the trilogy. It's good, but it suffers from something that is something I'll touch on for other songs on here too, is that the production on it is not great. And what I mean by that is, so Travis produced this record. It's very apparent that that's the case. The drum production on here in certain tracks is so loud that it overpowers everything else going on, to the point where sometimes it just sounds staticky. That happens here. Overall, still a good song. Better production could have improved it a bit. This song, also production wise, suffers from the vocals feeling very processed, which is another theme throughout this record that happens. Mark and Tom, not the most uh, talented vocalists, we could say, not the most proficiently skilled. So you do see a lot of like pitch correction, auto tune here and there. But certain songs, just it's more noticeable than others. I felt this was one of those. It's an 8 out of 10 for me, though. It's well written, it's done well. Dance With Me, favorite of the album. This is classic Blink-182. Those, when I first read the lyrics before hearing the song, and I read it that the lyrics to the chorus were ole ole ole, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be corny. But no, it actually worked really well for me. It's such a fun, upbeat song. And then when you get to the end, that like bridge towards the end of the song, it works great. Straight 10 out of 10 there. You go to Fell in Love, samples The Cure. Pretty good song. At first, I wasn't too into it. It did grow on me. It's kind of just like some radio pop going on. Nothing too standout. Nothing, but it's a great song. I hover between like an 8 and a 9 on this one. I can go either way. Which brings me to one of my least favorites, which is still a good song. When I say least favorites for this record, it still means that it's a decent to good track. 7 out of 10 for Terrified. Reason being, the verses are fantastic. I love Tom's voice in the verses. The melodies are great. But the chorus just feels like it doesn't fit for me. Something about it doesn't work. Also, JT, I know you try to keep this PG-13. Going to be a little difficult with this album. But I can't, maybe this is just me, I can't not hear the words welcome in the chorus. From the minute I heard it, and now I can't unhear it. And it just throws me off. But that chorus, it's a little bit rough. I know this is a fan favorite from the album, but 7 out of 10 for me. And then One More Time, already touched on. 10 out of 10, did exactly what it had to do. Going into more than you know, another 10 out of 10, another favorite on here for me. Starting off with that slow piano intro after One More Time, then really launching into it. I mean, Travis Barker breaks out the double bass here for a bit. It really shows this, in my opinion, this is where Tom and Mark, they trade verses back and forth. I feel like this is one that really showcases their ability to sing vocals together back and forth the best. 10 out of 10, great lyrics too. Then you get to the first like joke song of the record, Turn This Off. I mean, it's a fun joke song. It's about all it is. When We Were Young. Don't know if this was written before the festival. Well, it was obviously written before the festival, but before they knew about that, just they happened to be headlining it. a pretty good song. You know, it's very nostalgic. Nothing too special. Probably about an 8 on that one. Edging, I already talked about that one. You Don't Know What You Got is an interesting one for me because this is another, just like Terrified, another example of, I think the verses on this track are great, but the chorus could have done so much more than just repeat, you don't know what you got. It's just kind of cliche. It's emotionally powerful. I understand, you know, even though Travis wrote the chorus to it, but, you know, Mark wrote the rest of it kind of around his cancer diagnosis. And it's very, you know, emotionally powerful, but I just think they could have done more with that chorus. And then we get to probably my favorite toward the end of the album. I do think that the album is more front loaded, but Blink Wave, straight 10 out of 10. Not what I expected to hear on the album, but I love the 80s pop aesthetic in there. Following, especially in the chorus, the way that the synth kind of follows the vocal melody. Really like it, kind of breathed a breath of fresh air into the album at this point. 10 out of 10. Then Bad News. This suffers again from that same production thing with the drums that I was talking about, where at times it just sounds staticky because the drums are just mixed so loudly in there. But again, it's not a bad song. Probably give it about an 8. Hurt interlude, didn't need it. This is a 5. I don't think this adds anything or really detracts anything from the album as a whole. It's just kind of there. I wouldn't go back and listen to it. Turpentine, 10 out of 10. Great track. I don't really know what else to say about this one other than it's just, again, like more, this is more classic Blink. I guess if you were a fan of like the Untitled record, falls more into that. But it's well done. Tom really shines on this one. This is probably, I would say, out of all the songs, it's probably Tom's shining moment. Fuckface, this is a 5 out of 10. This was, I believe, written originally for Travis Barker during COVID, was writing a hardcore EP that never really saw the light of day, I guess. And this was a holdover from it. It's just there. I don't think it really needed to be. It doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than being a little bit cringy. 5 out of 10. And then the album kind of ends with a whimper for me. Other Side is good. It's emotional, but it sits at about an 8. I think they could have done more with it. They could have really,
That's your low rating?
for this
Man,
album.
you really punished this one, Kyle.
I
Man,
know.
holy
But
smokes.
that's my thing with Blink, Mike. Is a bad Blink song that's not from like their first 2 records where they objectively just could hardly play their instruments and vocally sounded bad is still a well done song. I think that Mark Hoppus's vocal melodies on this one are really well done. Lyrics are great. I just wish again that they did a little more. If it was longer and they added an extra bridge or something in there, they really could have heightened it even more. And then we get to Childhood, which I think ended on a bit of a whimper here. 7 out of 10. It's not bad, but as far as the album goes, it's one of the most forgettable tracks on here. I probably would have ended it with Other Side personally. I haven't seen many people discuss Childhood like in the fandom, I guess. So I don't know where other people feel on that one. Overall, I think this album did exactly what it needed to do. It proved that Blink-182 with that classic lineup is back. They still got it. And to me, it really just showed that the band needs each other. When you have Mark, Tom, and Travis all writing together, it elevates all of their writing to the point of this is Blink-182. Like when you have Tom writing on his own with Angels and Airwaves, it doesn't really work for me. When you have Mark and Travis doing Blink stuff as, you know, when they were with Matt Skiba, it was good, but it was missing that lyrical component that I feel like Tom brings, and it was missing just other more mature components, which might have been what they were going for purposely on those records. But the core 3 of them really just work together. Is it the best Blink-182 album? No, I wouldn't say that. Is it a good album overall? Absolutely. I would put it probably in the top tier of their records. I wouldn't put it number 1. Probably sitting at about an 8.5 on this one. if it goes anywhere, any change from that, I would say probably might go down a bit over time with some of those more forgettable songs, maybe getting even more forgettable once the happiness of having a new Blink album wears off. But that's where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting about an 8.5. Really looking forward to seeing them again in July. And I hope that this isn't the last one. I hope that we get some more after this.
Need him say more? I mean, come on, I will go next if that's okay. I just want to,
go for it.
yeah, if that's cool with you, Mike.
Yep.
So I mean, it's funny. My enjoyment of Blink-182. I mean, me and Kyle are actually on the same page as I love California. I think that album is incredible. Especially yes, I'm a title track guy and whatnot, but that title track is I listen to that on my own time, like all the time. I've always enjoyed the earlier stuff too, all the small things. I miss you, feeling this. They've always been there, but this kind of like 9 was a bit of a questionable thing. But we talked about that when it first came out. I know when we did our discography breakdown. Excuse me. I brought up on there that the 9 album was their 8th album, I think, or you brought that up. I forget which one of us brought it up, but that's just a strange choice. Plus, what's that?
Depends who you ask.
Oh, that's true. Actually, yeah, I take that back.
People count Buddha as an album, even though it's essentially just a demo. Some people count the live album as an album.
Yeah. So just
to me, we only count 2 albums. Yeah, it's their 8th album.
Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't. For some people, that is their 9th album. For some people, that is their 8th album. To me, it's their 8th. That's just me personally. But this one, though, it's funny. When Edging first came out as a single in 2022, and it's funny, they announced the single, and then they announced the tour that they're currently on now, and into 2024 as well. They're hitting stadiums next year, which is great. I know, as Cobb mentioned, he's seen them. I might see them again when they hit the area, the tri-state area, of course. I don't know though. I might because I saw them for the first time ever on this tour as well, and they were great too. I mean, they were really, really solid live as a unit. 3 guys on stage playing, like Green Day, same thing, incredible. But going to this album, I was like, all right, I'm Blink-182's back. They're back as the original lineup, and the whole everything's happy, right? With this album, one more time, it's not that it's a very good record. I'm in the same vein as Cobb, but maybe not as high as he would go. And I'll explain why in a second. But from just the track listing alone, there were some really great songs on here. Like, Anthem Part 3. When I first forget even listening to it, when I first saw that, I was like, all right, now they're back. Because Anthem Part 1 and 2 from the early records, it's just, as Kyle said, culminating that trilogy, it's great. And it kind of like came full circle with that. I appreciate that a lot too. The one I didn't realize this until looking at this track listing. I didn't know that Ryan Tedder and Michael Pollack were writers on some of these songs. Those names, for those who are unaware, Ryan Tedder is the lead singer of One Republic, and he is also yeah, I know. I believe me, I'm not a fan of them either. But he's a Hollywood producer though, and like he's produced a lot of like more pop leaning records and has a lot more samples and stuff like that. So seeing his name on seeing his name and Michael Pollack, I'll get to in a second. Seeing their names on some of these writers, as a writer on some of these songs, kind of threw me off a little bit. Like when you look at "Fell in Love" and like, yes, they sampled The Cure as you hear, but for some reason, it just doesn't sit well with me knowing that Ryan Tedder and Michael Pollack, who co-wrote some of the songs on Geordie and some of the songs on like 5 Seconds of Summer's 5 Sauce 5, are dealing with Blink-182 now. It's kind of a little unsettling for me. That's just, I just want to put that out there, because knowing that Michael Pollack wrote a lot of the songs with Adam Levine for Geordie. Look how that ended up. Thank God he only touched one song here, not like all of them. That would have been a mess, in my opinion. Thank God. Anyways, but just seeing their names in here as other writers, it's like kind of like I don't know how I feel about that personally. Anyways, Anthem Part 3, solid track just in general. Yes, it's gonna happen here, ladies and gentlemen. One More Time is a great song. Yes, title track guy right here. Yes, you can blame me later, whatever. Title track guy, go for it.
I'll find this time.
How perfect. If only there was a title track for 9, right? Let's be real. Oh my God, 9! It's a great song. It's about the number 9. It's exactly 8. No, but like just going through this over and over again to go to our broadcast tonight and go to our podcast. Like Anthem Part 3, one more time. Edging came out so long ago. I was like, it's funny when I first saw them. I was like, I asked my friend of mine who I went with. I'm like, Edging was the first single. Why have I not heard anything since? He's like, I'm not sure, but I know there's a new album coming out too. We're just not sure when it's going to come out. I'm like, oh, they just released a single like a year in advance just to prepare for like the return, I guess. I don't know. It was a great song overall. What's that?
I was surprised it ended up being on the final record, considering it was released over a year ago. I thought they might have just made a standalone single.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, why would they want to? I don't know. It was literally so far. It was such a long gap between singles and song and the album and whatnot. I was like, all right, whatever. But very, very good track overall. And it's funny, again, looking at the track listing and then going into the actual record, like one more when the fact that Green Day and Blink-182 were headlining the When We Were Young festival, and then they released a song of the same name. Brilliant move, just have to say. I didn't even make that connection until you said that. That was actually pretty funny. But yeah, like Edging, Anthem Part 3, one more time. There are, yes, we keep the show PG-13, but like there's a lot of like explicits on here, of course. But what do you expect from Blink? I it's hard to say. It's funny you mentioned Childhood, because Childhood is like, it's the last song on the record, yes, but it's also the longest one on the record at 4 minutes and 19 seconds. I'm kind of I mean, I'm kind of wondering why it's there. Almost like I'm in a similar vein as you, but it's like it kind of like you got to. I mean, you have to enter on that note type of thing. But that's me. Just want to, Kyle, you might be the right guy to answer this question. Tim Armstrong, is he Billy Joe Armstrong's brother, son?
No.
Oh, he's not. Okay, I wasn't sure because I say he's a writer on Fuckface. I wasn't sure who he was.
No, he's the singer of Rancid.
Okay, thank you. I'm not super familiar with Rancid, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, unrelated last name.
Yeah, but like, you would think, oh, it's Billy Joe Armstrong's like brother or cousin, or whatever. But no, it's not. But it's funny, like just knowing that Blink-182 is back as the original lineup. Like I had this conversation today, and actually, and I'm going to say this on air, in my college drawing class. Believe it or not, our professor is a huge Blink-182 guy. He's like, I had this conversation with him about this. He's like, what did we say? He said he has mixed feelings about them being back together as an original lineup. And then I said to him, but I mean, because he loved California just as much as you and I did. But then he's also like, I was kind of questioning about the new album because he listened to it as well. And he's like, well, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's kind of like they kind of went back to like their original like camping, not campus, but the original like cheese of like the when they first came out and whatnot, like First Date and all the small things and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. And this is in the middle of me listening to the record too. I didn't tell him that though, but it's interesting. It's an interesting record. And if you're looking for a record that's just fun and it's Blink-182 back like in their prime, I guess you'd say, this one is a very solid entry into their catalog, I would say, truthfully. Is it like, now, am I going to go as high as you by saying, Kyle by saying it's an 8.5? No, for me, I'm sitting at like probably like a 7.75, close to an 8. Because the good songs are really good, but the bad songs, I'm not saying bad songs. The songs that I don't really go back to as much as I thought I would, which is really.
No, you said it. Bad songs. You can't take that back.
Damn it, Mike! I really tried there.
Sorry. It's like chess. Once you take your hand off the piece, the move's already done. So,
well,
yeah.
Which ones are bad songs? Now that you've said it, I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead and divulge upon that, sir.
Oh my God! So anyways, it's like it's hard to say. It's like the second half of the record, like it didn't fall short. Like there's some good stuff on there. Don't get me wrong, but it's like it didn't hold up to the first half, in my opinion. Like after the intro,
front loaded.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. I'm sorry. I know you just said that too. I couldn't think of the word for whatever reason.
So, AKA, there's not a lot of blue font on the songs that you like. Let's just put it that way.
Let's just put it that way. Yes, the Wikipedia page has a lot of blue on the text.
The one thing that disappointed me was my favorite songs, other than like maybe one or two of them. I think no, other than Blink Wave, were all singles that I heard before the album came out.
I'm in a similar
Yeah.
boat, except there's a couple more here and there. But yeah,
This is exactly why I hate the current trend of bands releasing like 4 or 5 songs before an album even comes out.
thank you.
I'm fine
Yeah,
with all 4 or 5 singles, but maybe let's just release 2 songs, throw the album out there, and then do the singles afterwards. Because
I,
hearing all these songs, every time I hear the album, I'm like, oh, these are all my favorite ones, but I heard these weeks ago.
I'm in a very similar boat. Exactly. Kyle just knows how to take what I say and basically make it sound better for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. He just does. Because sometimes I can't say the words. Whatever. Besides the point, though. But I know. But seriously, I couldn't. The first half of the record, like the first, like up until about the interlude of Hurt, I was like, all right, this is like, it's really good. I like a lot of the stuff. But then after that, it just gets a little like, not necessarily boring, but just like, it's like I don't know if I'd go back to them as much as I thought I would. I like there's stuff on California I go back to all the time. There's stuff on take off your pants. What's it?
Take off your pants and jacket.
Thank you. I know it was pants. I wasn't sure what the other part was. Like there's so many things I can go back to on like Enema of the State. Like I can go back to like almost all the whole album or like a good chunk of that record. This record, I'm like I can go back to probably like 7 songs, maybe 8. You know what I mean? It's just not all of them, but just like that's why I wanted to go with a 7.75, almost an 8, because it's still Blink-182. They're back. I just don't know what the future holds with them at the moment. I mean, I'm hoping for more though. It left me wanting more as well. Like I can't wait for their next record. Hopefully, it's an even better step up than this. You know what I mean? Like this was a good reintroduction. Let's see what they do next, type of thing. But yeah, sorry for my confusion there. I'm sitting at about a 7.75, close to an 8 for Blink-182's One More Time, and I think Mike and I were talking about this beforehand. Mike's original thumbnail for his wallpaper was supposed to be Stink-180 Poo. I'm not sure how he feels about this record exactly, but Mike, why don't you dive into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's get into it. So, I mean, as these two guys know, and maybe some of our listeners who are more familiar with my previous videos, I've never been a huge fan of pop punk. It takes a certain band to really keep me interested in that kind of style, especially bands who are not very musically, I would say, on the side of like, I've never been a vocal guy for the pop punk. I've always been like straight kind of like musical breaks with lots of like lead guitar over top of the power chords. When there's not a lot of that, it leaves me kind of feeling like a lot less to be desired. And it can be a common symptom of a lot of punk rock bands who just kind of do a lot of you know power chord stuff and don't really split off into like more of the layering of harmony and melody and all this kind of stuff. So never been a fan of Blink-182. I'm not a fan of joke bands in the pop punk realm. Never been something I've loved. Sum 41 is one of the bands that I've always kind of been at fault with that. And when you try to be too funny, like Newfound Glory, these kinds of bands, like when you try to be too funny and it just comes off cringy and just kind of um just makes you like cringe and just not and feel weird, like that you're just like, I hope nobody sees me while I listen to this kind of situation. But coming into this, I didn't have super high hopes just because I've really never listened to a Blink-182 album. Hearing the songs that they've had for hits, I've always been kind of like, yeah, when I'm in a certain setting, I'll listen to this. But on my own, when I have control of the music, I'll generally not play it. So it's kind of like not a great relationship with the band's previous material. So kind of coming into this, I didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I expected a lot of the same. And for in some ways, it's what I got out of it. There was some strange stuff that I didn't expect, but overall, it was pretty much a lot what I expected it to be. We're just gonna kind of come down the line here. The first song. So this is what's interesting about listening to an entire album. You get what's called album fatigue. You get what's called repetitive or predictability. I'm gonna go with predictability. And that is a tough thing. That's why we do this, folks. That's why we listen to full albums, because the art of the full album is dying. We're going into a world of listening to a track and then right. Yeah. It's it's becoming a hard thing to pull off. A full album of material that remains fresh, that remains changing, which keeps you interested. Um, it's not it's not easy to do, and it's becoming even more difficult as time goes by. So uh, we kind of get introduced to Anthem Part Three. I'm not familiar with Anthems One and Two, and I probably never will be. No offense to you guys, but just coming into this, it's actually it's a good start. And when I say good, I mean good for my rating on pop punk kind of fans. So chorus isn't too bad, but kind of stays on that predictable path. It's got some cool musical change ups, which I wish continued. Uh, but it left little meat on the bone to chew on. And then that kind of like it changed up and it didn't do it very long. It was a lot of the symptoms of this album are short songs. There's a lot of short songs on this, and they kind of don't do what they need to do long enough, and they do what they don't need to do too long. So that's kind of like what I encountered along this album was just like, okay, this is okay, but then a part that I like comes and it goes and it's gone and it never comes back. It's just a quick thing and it's gone. And it's like kind of drives me nuts. It's like, I like that. Why didn't that continue on? Why didn't that keep going? And it's like, it's gone and it's the song's over. It's 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Like, what? Like, my God, like that's a blink in the eye. Haha, blink in the eye. Of writing an album. And, you kind of, you know, you don't get to really experience some of the melodies and the stuff that they're presenting. So, yeah, it definitely left me feeling there's more to be desired. 6.5 out of 10 for that one. Just kind of it left me feeling like, okay, what's next? And then we kind of go on with Dance with Me, super poppy, super, fun kind of song, but it just a little too poppy, a little too
Fun, but it might.
yeah, I like fun, but like fun is nice, but then when you just like it feels like too mainstream of a song and this is the most important thing I'm going to say of all is when you come from my point of view, whereas you come from your guys' point of view, it's they're a band I've never really appreciated in the mainstream take, like their take on the mainstream punk has always been a genre that I've never really liked the mainstream take on. So all the bands who presented a mainstream take on them, I've always had a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a chip on my shoulder towards them, towards bands who had the mainstream style of punk. So I harshly judge them for that. There's been a few bands who pulled it off. The Offspring's early stuff was what had some edge, had some grit, had some in your face, had some heaviness to them. But then they drifted off into that weird kind of we need to make super amounts of money quick kind of realm, and it's a dangerous realm. So little too up, a little too poppy, little too cheesy for me. But still, it's a fun song and it keeps you kind of tapping your toe to it. So 6 out of 10, nothing too crazy. But then we just off the cliff with Fell in Love. I can't stand the auto tunes on the vocals. That kind of kick in over top of some of the and it's almost like it's weird. It's almost like the auto tune doesn't come through until when they end their notes at the end of a sentence. You can hear it drag on a little bit, but you don't notice it as much in the beginning of their sentence or their statement in the vocals. It's like when it ends on the notes, like like you can just tell it has some tuning on it. It's really annoying. It's got too poppy, cheesy sounding la 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 la. I'm just not into this presentation of punk here. It just lacks edge, or just an original presentation. It's a 3 out of 10 for me. Yeah, just not what I want to hear. And we just kind of continue on that line. Terrified was just boring. it was strange. It had some strange things musically going on. Like it would change direction for a couple seconds, and then it would do some strange things. I didn't like where it was going, and it was just kind of not keeping me interested. It gets obnoxiously loud during the end. Did you guys notice, like vocally, like they? What do you say, Kyle?
I said, "Yep, it sure did."
Yeah, it does it. It does this like staticky kind of like
In the court,
I'll
like
what'd you say?
the volume levels peaked when they were recording, and they
Yeah,
didn't compress it or anything.
it was strange and
Yep.
uh yeah, it just wasn't able to get traction. It was just strange, uh just uninteresting. 4 out of 10. It left me terrified, to be honest with you, for what was next. So and then we go to one more time. I miss you. Oh, it's not I miss you, excuse me. It's one more time, excuse me. I thought I was listening to I miss you with the same exact cadence, this almost the exact same kind of rhythm to the song. It really is. I'm just gonna call it I Miss You Part Two. All right, so I Miss You Part Two. It's catchy. It's literally a clone of that song, and it feels really safe. And to be honest with you, it's one of my favorite songs on this album. To be honest with you, because like it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I was singing it during the week, and I was like, stop, Mike, don't do that. And I was just like, get out of my head. And then I'd be like hearing it randomly, and I'm like, damn you, Kyle. Damn you, sir. Like you introduced what?
I told you it's a good song.
I wouldn't go so far as to say the words it's a good song. I would go so far as to say it does have a I like the fact that it's got this kind of accompaniment alongside of it with like some piano and kind of like an emotional kind of song. I'm not gonna go say it's a great song. I'm gonna say it's a 7 out of 10. uh it's definitely a hair above their first song, Anthem Part 3, and it gets stuck in my head, but along the lines of it just didn't really have much else to it besides kind of a catchy kind of chorus and you know, that kind of just overall feel. Yeah, and then we just go into more than you know. Overall, this whole album drumming is great. I do admit with Kyle, it is very high on the mix, and it is definitely a drummer's production. But his drumming is great. It really is, and you can't deny his ability and his skill. But sometimes it's not enough to save some of the other stuff. Overall, the lyrics and the cadence, continuous cadence that he brings with his their lyrics and their vocals. I was never a fan of Blink-182's talking like this and doing this rhythm over and over again. Like they just kind of do that. Just never been a fan of like that style of singing. So kind of like throughout this whole album, when they do break out of that kind of like you know stuff, it does intrigue me more. But yeah, just kind of a basic 4 out of 10 for more than you know. Song 7 is just an NA. I'm It's not a rated song. It's just kind of it is what it is. It's just pop. It's like punk rock. Yeah, let's put a 30-minute song in there, and it's just nonsense. Like you know, yeah, it is what it is. When we were young, chorus really could have been better. That hurts this song. It could have been much better than it is. It's repetitive, and that's where the song suffers. 6 out of 10. Then we'll go on to edging, and now this kind of brings to light a major issue I have with this album. You have a bunch of 50-year-old guys, talking about like some stupid stuff, and you can't help but wonder, is this band ever gonna like move on from like some of their old kind of like, and now I believe in nostalgia, but I believe in doses of nostalgia. I also do believe in overdosing on nostalgia. And the band does just that. It does overdose on this nostalgia. And I'm a punk rock kid and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, you're not, bro. You're old. Even if you're talking about the past, it's like in a lot of ways I feel like it's like they're holding on to a lot of that stuff because they're today's younger generation on the TikTok and this and that. They're kind of trying to inspire a new, era of kid who's into skating and rock. I get it. That's an important thing to invest in, but in a lot of ways, I feel like it's overdone. vastly on this album. It reminds me of Green Day, this song. Just the way he's just like he enunciates his words, and the chorus reminds me of Green Day. Maybe it reminds me of old punk a little bit, almost like it's a throwback to that. Auto tune on the vocals comes through again. This is a 5 out of 10. It's pretty down the middle. Don't hate it, don't love it. Then we just get to You Don't Know What You Got. Once again, uh, drums help this. Drums help this. Repetitive chorus, but drums help this. It just feels like underdeveloped. 4 out of 10 for that. Blink Wave. Now, I do like a change up, but the 80s feel to me, the synth wave feel to it just feels out of place. Um, I wasn't really impressed by it, but it just didn't really like make me upset. 4 out of 10 for that. Bad News. Uh, After you hear that intro and chorus, it's pretty much wash, rinse, repeat for the song. Drums kind of sound weird too in this one, almost like he was trying to do some weird things to his drums to make it a little more artistic or whatever. Didn't help it. 4 out of 10. So we're kind of seeing a repeat 4 4 4 here. Her interlude, yeah, it's 3 out of 10. Could have used, didn't need it, didn't want it. And then we get to the worst song on this album. Lyrically, worst song on this album, like overall consistency, like consistency is Turpentine. I mean, it's just so like, hey, we're gonna be like our old self talking about crazy stuff, and like you're not gonna realize we're almost 50 years old. And it's just like it's just tough sell. 1 out of 10 for that one. I harshly judge songs on lyrics, especially when they just reach a level of that they have in like especially in that song, and it just does not help it. 15. I didn't rate this one. It's just put it down as NA. It's just another kind of throwaway song. Just like a quick thing. Moving on to Other Side, it kind of sounds like a little bit like When We Were Young. 4 out of 10. Childhood. Now it's funny. Alexa skipped this song when I was listening to the album. It went straight to a bonus song, and I was like, I look over at Tracy
That's
and I'm like,
that's
"What'd you
because
say?"
the new updated version of the album for digital put the two
Yeah.
bonus tracks in Other Side and Childhood. So the
Oh,
album's Childhood.
no wonder. I was just like, does Alexa hate this song?
Side note, the two track not great.
Yeah,
Two of
it
the
was not good. 3 out of 10. It was just, yeah, I could do without it. So yeah, vocals so I kind of did like a weird like rating categories for this album. Vocals, including changing up your cadence, the repetition, the use of autotune. 5 out of 10. Drumming was 8 out of 10. Great. Chorus was 4 out of 10, and lyrics were 4 out of 10. Unpredictability is a 3 out of 10 for me. So with an overall rating of a 4.5 out of 10, it I thought it could be worse, but it was kind of just, it had some fun moments at the beginning. I do admit it's front loaded with those first two songs and One More Time, kind of coming down to the rest of the end of this album is just wretched. Like it's just kind of like a lot of just forgettable songs. I think edging it could take a step up from a 5 to maybe a 6, but it wasn't as horrible as some of the songs at the end of this. Yeah, so it checks a lot of boxes for nostalgia. It brings in the reminiscent like feeling of like heartbreak that you've all loved with these albums and stuff. The honest view of the band that you want to know where they've progressed, matured, and sound isn't really. I don't feel they've arrived at that kind of area, and I don't think they need to because they've created a band out of nostalgia and the throwback. And while I appreciate that they're going to stay in that realm in order to kind of like play lip service to their fans kind of love of that, I don't feel we get um that ability to see where they would go if they could change their sound a little bit to head in that direction. Songs are too short. You don't have a chance to really arrive at your musical point when you have such a short song. I felt they were running out of ideas, and they kind of retreaded on some of them. It is what it is. You know, it's a harsh review for me because it's not my style. So if you are a fan of this band, you're more looking at JT or Kyle's point of view as like a continuation of liking them versus a not liking them coming into listening to a whole song or album. the pop punk style is there. Like, you know, it's just never been something that like it's very tough for a band to like make me really enjoy those styles of songs. Yeah, so overall just not my cup of tea, but that is where I stand on it. 4.5 out of 10.
Wow. Crazy times. Crazy stuff.
Time. Kyle's gone. Kyle's gone.
Kyle
Oh, Kyle.
vanished.
And that's like a Halloween thing. I mean, he was like a ghost, man. Maybe,
Yeah, now he's
maybe,
a ghost.
maybe, folks. Kyle was never here. He's here. Never mind,
There
folks.
he is.
Theory canceled.
Oh my
What'd you
God.
say?
I don't know what just happened.
Yeah,
You're there though. That's all that matters.
I was a little scared. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys. Ultimately, you heard what you heard from all of us here. Kyle's was a much higher rating than mine, and I was about a 7.75. You said 8.5, right? I'm sorry.
0.5.
8.5 for Kyle, 7.758, almost an 8 for me, and Mike was a 4.5 out of 10. You know, needless to say, we're glad. Some of us are glad Blink-182 is back. Some of us are not that glad that they're back in general. Just want to say. But ultimately, guys, it's what you guys have to say out there. Jump down in the comment section below, share your thoughts on this stream and on Blink-182 in general. Thanks so much for watching. And Kyle, is Q&A podcast coming back anytime soon or no?
Good question. Sometime soon. I have the first one
Undetermined.
them, but my computer broke. So
all right, so
and then next week, and then next week we are doing what?
Yeah, next week. So for the quick backstory, real quick, before we have to end our stream, I originally had our broadcast night as a Halloween themed album because the album turned 30 this year. Meatloaf's Bad NFL 2. That's what I originally had our broadcast as tonight. But then I was like, oh my God, and I forgot. I was listening to that today for a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, wait, we're doing Blink-182 today. So I forgot about that. That's okay though. But it's all good though. But next week we're gonna do Meatloaf's Bad Out of Hell 2 from 1993. Well, that should be in very interesting one. Very much on the harder edge as well. But yeah, look for that next week coming for us here from Career Retrospectives. Thanks so much for watching, listening, however you enjoy us tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on our podcast format as well. Simply at the Super Review Show Podcast Edition. Thanks so much for watching, guys. So listen, for all of us here at the Career Retrospectives, stay safe, take care, and be awesome.